Living in New York City, the first question that's asked when you meet someone new is, where are you from? Where were you born? And that for me is a loaded question. Loaded. It never has a simple answer. I say, I'm from a colonia named Heidelberg, and right away they stop me. So you're from Germany? I'm like, no. So I'm from this colonia named Heidelberg, right outside Mercedes. And colonias only exist right along the US and Mexican border. And colonias are usually, the average income per capita in a household in a colonia is $5,000 a year. And there's inadequate housing, inadequate sewage, inadequate electricity. I grew up in a one-room shack with my dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, and I. We all slept in one room, one floor. We had an outhouse as a bathroom, and our shower with the water hose, una manguera, and we would shower outside. Here in America. And that's where I grew up. And if that wasn't hard enough, we were migrant workers too. So during the summers, my dad would pack us up in the truck. We'd go up north and we'd pick. The whole family would. It's kind of a generational thing. And as growing up there, it was always really challenging in every aspect of life, food, from money to work. And I do remember when things just turned even harder. I was 11 years old when my dad decided to quit on us. See, my dad was a truck driver as well. My dad, remember that night, it was in December, and he was driving, he had got to the house, and I could hear the truck coming in, because there was dirt roads, and he parks the truck, he comes in, and usually he came in with a smile and had a story or a joke or some sort of trinket from a gas station. And that day was different. He walks in with his bags, and he looks at my mom, and my mom was a homemaker. She was at home taking care of the kids. She was cooking a meal for him every time he came home, the meal was ready. I was sitting at the table waiting for Dad, and he comes home, and he starts this argument with my mom. He starts arguing with her and just yelling, and it was kind of a normal thing, but this time it was escalated. It escalated so fast, and my dad said, I'm done. He went back, grabbed his bags, the same day he came in, and heads out the door. He says, I'm done, I'm not coming back. Immediately, I got up and ran after him. The screen door, I blow it open, and I'm running outside barefoot. The ground is cold. I'm chasing after my dad. I'm pulling at his coat, asking him, please, Dad, don't leave. I'll be a better son. I'll be a better kid. I'm begging my dad, don't leave. My dad turns around, grabs me from my shirt, says, I don't want you anymore. I don't want you. I don't want your mom. I'm done. And my dad gets in his truck, in his rig, and he starts driving. I start chasing him down that farm road as fast and as hard as I could. That was the last time my dad ever touched me. It was the last time my dad ever talked to me. I never heard from my dad again, ever again. He was my hero. He was my everything. I wanted to be a truck driver. My dad was gone. A few weeks go by, and my dad surfaces again. And I see him across the street from my house. He's literally across the street. See what my dad was doing? He was having an affair with my mom's best friend. So my dad moves across the street and becomes my neighbor. He literally moves across the street and is my neighbor. Not once did my dad come across the street to say, happy birthday, son. Never did my dad say, it's Christmas, I'm going to go see the kids. He's my neighbor. I see my dad mowing the lawn. I see my dad, all the neighborhood kids asking me, hey, bro, what's going on with your family? I was so embarrassed and ashamed. I thought I was the one that had caused them to go there. My childhood best friends were now my dad's stepkids. That's how I grew up, in a colonia, in a border slum. That's what they're referred to as my dad is my neighbor. If things weren't hard enough, it was like, I remember a friend of mine comes over and he's like, hey, bro, you don't come outside anymore. I go, yeah, He goes, you know what? You don't need to worry about that. He was a tough kid in the neighborhood. He said, don't worry about that shit. You know why? Because you're just like us now. You're a bastard. You know what that means? And I was like, I really wasn't sure what that meant. I didn't even know what the word meant, but he was cool and he was tough. So I was like, oh, I guess. He goes, it is what it is. And that's the mentality in the colonias. It is what it is. I go home, I look it up, and pretty much what it meant is that I no longer had a dad, that I was abandoned, someone who will never get to hang out with his dad. He was never going to teach me how to shoot a ball or how to shave or anything like that. And then, so growing up with that, then I go to school, and school was my outlet. School was my outlet. I'd go to school, and I remember it was like career week of some sort, they would call it. And students were coming out of the counselor's office, and they were telling them about college. And there was this new school that they were going to open called Med High, and people were talking about that, and people were talking about, College Station and Austin and all these schools, which I had never heard of, never. I go in, it was my turn. I go, shit, I'm going to get some encouragement. I'm going to go in there and get what I'm not getting at home. So I go in there, and the counselor looks at me, and she's so polite. I actually had a crush on her, I think, and she's looking at me, and she goes, Arturo, we have a plan for you. And guys, when I heard she had a plan, there was a plan for my life. There was nothing going on at home. It was a disaster, broken home. So she looks at me, and she says, we're going to help you finish junior high, and we're going to get you through high school. I'm looking at her, it gets quiet. I was like, so where's the rest of the plan? In my mind, I'm like, so then I asked her, I said, what about college? What about college? And she said, well, let me explain something to you, Arturo. And I said, all right. And she goes, you're an ESL at-risk student. And I said, what? What does that mean? And pretty much she explained to me that English is my second language, and I'm an at-risk student because I come from a border slum. I come from a colonia, and my mom was raising 6 kids on her own, and I fell under the poverty line, and I was on welfare. That is why that was my plan. So she labeled me an ESL at-risk kid. My dad leaving labeled me a bastard. The government labels me a kid from the slum. So then I had no choice. So I said, I'm going to join sports. I'm going to get into sports. So I joined sports. My brother was an amazing athlete. I joined football, basketball, baseball, everything they could throw at. I was playing because I didn't want to be at home. So I go to my mom and say, hey, Mom, I want to join sports. And she says, Mijo, you know what that means? And I look at my mom. I said, I do, Mom. I can do this. See, what I was doing before school is I was picking watermelon and I was picking onions to provide for my family before going to school. And after school, what my mom was saying is, we don't have a car because your dad left. So what that means is that after football practice and after a game, you have to walk home. Now, walking home from Mercedes to Heidelberg is 6 miles. And I said, you know what? I got this, Mom. I can do this. So I did. I joined. I go to a coach and say, Coach, I need somebody to talk to. He pulls me aside. All right, let's talk. I said, what's going on? I said, I got so many problems at home, Coach. I feel alone, and I don't have a dad anymore. And I said, but Coach, the thing that bothers me is the counselor said I was an ESL at-risk student, that I don't have an opportunity to go to college. I don't believe that, Coach. And he says, of course you don't. You can go to college. I lit up. When we say I can go, how, Coach? He says, you know what? Forget about education. Focus on sports. Because that's your ticket out. And I said, Coach, all right, sports? I said, I can do sports, Coach, but you know what, Coach? What my dream is, I want to be in fashion, Coach. My mom's a seamstress, and she sews at night to make ends meet. And she gets tired, Coach. And I want to be able to help her sew. So you know what? I want to take class next year. I want to sign up. And you know what he said to me? He said, that's for girls. Women do that. Men play sports. I said, Coach, I get it, but, I really think I should do this, Coach. He looks at me straight in the eye, and he says, are you gay? And I said, what? I look at Coach, and I said, Coach, I love girls, but I also love fashion. I love clothes. And he pretty much said, if I did that, I was going to be labeled that. So now I walk away from this conversation, and I'm like, well, shit, I'm an at-risk kid from the slum, a bastard, and now Coach thinks I'm gay. I said, there's no hope for me. There's no hope for me. I said, how can I be labeled this? So then I was down to my wits' end, and I tell you guys that it was hard. It wasn't easy seeing your mom breaking down with depression. My mom got so sick. I had to take care of her in many ways that a kid shouldn't have. And let me tell you, this church donated these hefty bags, large black bags of clothes. And they donated it to us because that was our school clothes. And I remember when those bags came, man, I was in the bag going through them, looking at them. My brothers are looking at me. 5 guys and 1 girl. They're all looking at me like, he's crazy. That's just clothes coming out of a trash bag. But for me, I was looking for something good. So I get to the bottom of the bag, guys. To the bottom of the bag, and there's a navy polo shirt with a red pony on here. I take it out, I put it on 2 sizes too big. I run out the back door. I'm looking for my mom. She's like hanging the clothes on the clothesline. I'm going through the sheets and I find my mom. I said, Mom, I got a polo shirt. Everybody wears it at school. This means a lot. And my mom looks at me and she says, I need to talk to you. I said, oh my gosh, she's going to give me a parable, un dicho. Those go in one ear and out the other. I go, Mom, I speak Spanish and I speak English, but parables, dichos, sayings. So she sits down and she looks at me and she says, I want you to know, son, that life's not about shirts, it's not about cars, it's not about money. You know, those are the things that don't matter. It's about character. It's about doing things that right. It's about loving people. And I look at my mom and I say, Mom, you know, I'm excited that it is a polo shirt. But what I'm excited most about is this man named Ralph Lauren, this brand, they had a dream. I have a dream, Mom, that one day I'm going to walk into a Ralph Lauren store and I'm going to buy you a polo shirt. And we're never going to have to go through a trash bag again. I won't have to go and stand at the food pantry. I won't have to ask for help from the neighbor, Mom. We're going to make it out of here, Mom. And my mom looks at me and she's emotional and she's crying. And she says to me, and I'll never forget, she looks at me and says, don't ever let our circumstance or the lack of me being able to provide for you or the fact that you don't have a dad ever define you. You can do it. You can do anything you put your heart to. And it makes me emotional because I believed my mom. I believed her. I look at my mom in her face and said, Mom, someday I will work for Ralph Lauren. And fast forward, now I have all these labels that society, social doctrine said I was. And that day I said, I'm gonna create my own story. I'm gonna write my own story. So guess what I did? This ESL kid did. He finishes junior high, finishes high school. I go to college. I'm done with college. I come home. I had all these plans, right? And I made some mistakes in life. And they didn't work out. But I had this passion for clothes. I didn't go to school for fashion because I was still believing the coach and the lies. I was still believing those lies. I still was living in that with an open wound. Because I tell you something, you can live with scars and be successful in life. But if you're still living with wounds, you're not going to go anywhere. And I learned that at that age. So I dealt with my issues, and then I said, you know what? I'm going for it. I packed my car, and I drive to New York. And I have $100 in my pocket. I get there, and I'm grinding. I get 3 jobs. And I remember I met 2 people that were in fashion. And we would always talk. I would look for them when they would come to the deli. I was working at a deli. And I was living in my car for 6 months. They said to me, well, you know what? Why don't you work in fashion? And they gave me an opportunity. I grinded. I was a stock boy. I called my mom. Hey, Mom, I'm in fashion. She said, you know what? There's more. I believed her. 14 months later, I was opening stores. I was running merchandising for the stores. And guess what? This person comes to the store from Ralph Lauren and looks at what this kid named Arturo had done. He finds me and tells me, hey, you know what? I want to offer you a job at Ralph Lauren. At that moment, guess what happened? It was fulfilled. What I had spoken and the dream that I had were fulfilled. He gave me an opportunity. I grinded for 8 years at Ralph Lauren. Until this year, I can tell you what, next summer when you watch the opening ceremony for the Olympics, I worked on that project. I designed the opening and closing ceremony outfits for the American Olympics. And I tell you what, so I was able to be a part of that with this company. They treated with me with so much respect. They believed in me. They built me up. That's what that company did for me. But tell you what, I resigned last month. Why? Because I'm still writing my story. I wasn't done. I didn't just want to be a Ralph Lauren employee. I wanted to launch my own brand, and I did. It's called Cielo. You know why Cielo? Cielo Brands? Because it's blue sky thinking. From the moment my mom told me when I was opening that trash bag, she said, you think big and you dream big, and I have. And today I'm wearing Cielo Brands. This is my brand, everything I'm wearing today. But I tell you what, if you're being labeled at risk, if you're being labeled a bastard, any labels that you've believed along the way, no matter your age, I tell you what, today you can go from being labeled to creating your own label. Thank you. Did I make it?